Eva had always believed she was living the dream. As the head of marketing at a reputed firm, she was not only excelling in her career, but also relishing the stability that came with financial security. Married to Caleb, a charming and dependable man, Eva felt her life was perfectly in order. Together, they were building their future, paying off their mortgage, and dreaming of the milestones that lay ahead. Life, as she saw it, was a beautiful balance of professional success and personal contentment. Central to Caleb's life was his family. Having lost their father years ago, Caleb had developed an unwavering bond with his mother, Regina, and his younger brother, Felix. Eva couldn't help but admire Caleb for his devotion to them. Their tight-knit dynamic resonated deeply with her values, and it filled her with hope that she, too, could seamlessly integrate into their circle. The early days of her relationship with Regina were warm and welcoming. Regina, an elegant and assertive woman, often engaged Eva in conversations about her work. "Marketing, huh? That must be quite the job," she'd say with an approving nod, making Eva feel both appreciated and validated. Family gatherings were filled with laughter, spontaneous games, and delicious meals. Eva found herself looking forward to these moments, which she saw as a testament to the love and connection that bound them together. In those early years, Eva cherished the closeness of Caleb's family, feeling truly embraced. Regina's warmth, Felix's jovial demeanor, and Caleb's steadfast loyalty painted a picture of familial harmony that Eva believed she was fortunate to be part of. Little did she know that beneath this veneer of perfection lay an undercurrent of complexities that would soon unravel, threatening the life she had worked so hard to build. It was a New Year's Eve gathering at Regina's house when Eva first caught a glimpse of something unsettling beneath the surface. Excusing herself to refill her glass in the kitchen, she paused at the doorway when she heard Regina's voice drifting in from the living room. She really thought the dress was appropriate? Trying so hard to impress, and yet she still looks like she belongs in a thrift store. Regina snickered, and Felix's laughter followed. Eva froze. She recognized the name of the family member being mocked, a kind, soft-spoken woman who had always tried to fit in. A pit formed in Eva's stomach as the warmth she once felt for Regina began to waver. Over time, Eva started noticing a pattern. During family gatherings, Regina would huddle with Caleb and Felix, their heads bent together as they exchanged whispers. Occasionally, stifled laughter would erupt, accompanied by glances at unsuspecting relatives. The camaraderie that Eva had once admired now felt like a cruel game at the expense of others. The breaking point came during an Easter Sunday lunch. As everyone gathered around the dining table, Regina made an offhand comment about a relative's recent financial struggles. "I suppose some people just aren't smart enough to plan for the future," she said with a smirk, her voice dripping with condescension. Eva had had enough. Setting down her fork, she looked directly at Regina and said firmly, "That's not fair. They're doing the best they can, and it's not right to belittle someone for things they can't control." The room fell silent. Regina arched an eyebrow, her tone sharp. "Oh, Eva, don't be so sensitive. It's just a joke. You really need to learn to relax." Eva turned to Caleb, hoping for even the smallest sign of support. But Caleb, visibly uncomfortable, avoided her gaze and shifted in his seat. That silent betrayal stung more than Regina's words ever could. From that day forward, Eva couldn't see the family gatherings the same way. What once felt like a sanctuary of love now seemed like a minefield of judgment and cruelty. She found herself retreating more and more, dreading the moments when she'd have to endure the sharp barbs and veiled insults. At first, she made excuses, work commitments, migraines, or errands she couldn't postpone. But even when she did attend, Eva felt like an outsider, nursing a drink in the corner while Caleb remained glued to his mother's side. The man she once saw as her rock now seemed like a mere extension of Regina's dominance, leaving Eva to fend for herself. The isolation became unbearable. Eva's once bright perspective on Caleb's family dimmed, replaced by a growing realization that the warmth she had admired was only surface deep. With every whisper and every dismissive glance, The bond she shared with Caleb began to fray, leaving Eva questioning where she truly stood in this family she had tried so hard to embrace. Eva had always envisioned her first pregnancy as a beautiful chapter of her life, but reality unraveled in ways she could never have imagined. What began with excitement and hope quickly turned into a harrowing ordeal. Early complications left Eva bedridden with severe nausea and constant dizziness. Her condition worsened as her eyesight began to falter, a rare and potentially permanent side effect of her pregnancy. Despite the growing challenges, Caleb's support was glaringly absent. At first, he made a few half-hearted attempts to help. "I'm just not good at this stuff, Eva," he'd say with a shrug when she asked for his assistance. Soon, even those moments disappeared. Caleb began staying out later, often claiming he was busy helping Regina or Felix. When he did come home, it was clear his patience was wearing thin. "You're always tired," he remarked one evening, the words laced with irritation. How hard can it really be to rest? By the time Eva's C-section was scheduled, her body and spirit were both utterly drained. Lying on the cold operating table, nerves and fear consumed her. "Where's Caleb?" she asked the nurse, her voice trembling. The response was a blow she wasn't prepared for. "He said he'd wait outside," the nurse replied kindly but firmly. The surgery was a success, and when Eva heard her baby's first cries, a rush of love and relief overwhelmed her. But that fleeting moment of joy was cut short when Caleb finally appeared in her recovery room. His face showed no pride, only discomfort. "I don't understand why this was necessary," he muttered, barely glancing at their newborn son. Men weren't even supposed to be in these situations back in the day. What happened to privacy? His words stung like salt on a wound, and as he stormed out, claiming he couldn't handle the hospital environment, Eva was left alone, tears streaming down her face, her baby cradled in her arms. The weeks following their son's birth were some of the most challenging of Eva's life. Sleepless nights blended into exhausting days, and she faced every feeding, diaper change, and midnight cry on her own. Caleb's presence grew rarer, and when he was home, his complaints overshadowed everything else. "Can you shut him up?" Caleb growled one night as the baby's cries echoed through the house. "I'm trying," Eva replied, her voice heavy with exhaustion. "He's teething, Caleb. It hurts him." "Well, all you do is focus on him. What about me? What about our marriage?" Caleb snapped, his words cutting deep. Eva wanted to scream at him, to make him understand the sheer weight of what she was carrying. But instead, she swallowed her pain and continued soothing her son, her heart breaking a little more with each passing day. As the months went on, Caleb's dissatisfaction only grew. One evening, while Eva was attempting to soothe their colicky 7-month-old, he dropped a bombshell. "You need to go back to work," he announced abruptly. "What?" Eva said, startled. "But the baby, he still needs me. And my health." "We'll hire a nanny," Caleb interrupted dismissively. "We can't keep living like this. We need the money." Though Eva tried to reason with him, the resolute look in his eyes made it clear there was no room for argument. With a heavy heart, she began job hunting, knowing she had no choice but to comply. Finding work with her impaired vision proved to be an uphill battle, but Eva eventually secured a lower-paying position at a smaller firm. When she shared the news with Caleb, hoping for a sliver of encouragement, his response was predictably dismissive. "That's it," he scoffed. "We're paying a nanny for this?" Tears welled up in Eva's eyes as she mustered the strength to reply, "I'm doing my best, Caleb. It's not easy with my eyesight." "Excuses," he muttered, walking away without another glance. Eva's life became a relentless cycle of work, childcare, and enduring Caleb's endless criticism. She juggled her responsibilities as a mother and employee, all while grappling with her physical limitations. The man who once vowed to stand by her in sickness and in health had become her greatest source of pain, leaving Eva to question whether she could endure this loneliness and neglect any longer. Thanksgiving had always been a significant day for Eva, a time for family, connection, and gratitude. This year, however, it marked a turning point she would never forget. The day began like most family gatherings, with Regina bustling around the kitchen, giving orders, and ensuring everything was picture perfect. But the atmosphere shifted when Felix arrived, a wide grin on his face, and an elegant woman by his side. "Everyone, this is Serafina," Felix announced, beaming with pride. Serafina, poised and confident, introduced herself as a manager at a prestigious bank. Regina's eyes lit up as if Felix had just unveiled a prized possession. "Wow, a banker!" Regina exclaimed, pulling Serafina into a warm embrace. "How prestigious. Felix, you've truly outdone yourself." Throughout the evening, Regina lavished Serafina with attention, asking about her six-figure salary and praising her accomplishments at every turn. "You know, Serafina here makes $220,000 a month," Regina said loudly, ensuring everyone at the table heard her. "Now that's the kind of daughter-in-law I've always dreamed of, smart, beautiful, and successful." Her words hit Eva like a dagger, but what followed was worse. Regina, with a syrupy sweet smile, added, "Unlike some people who only know how to pop out babies and bring financial stress." The table fell silent. Eva's cheeks burned with humiliation as she stared down at her plate, wishing she could disappear. Mary, a family friend sitting next to her, bristled, ready to defend Eva. But Eva gently stopped her, knowing that engaging would only escalate the situation. Regina wasn't finished. "Why don't we celebrate this wonderful news with dinner at that new downtown restaurant?" she suggested, her tone dripping with excitement. Felix and Serafina eagerly agreed, and Caleb chimed in without hesitation. Eva looked at him, hoping he'd notice her discomfort, and decline the invitation. Instead, Caleb avoided her gaze entirely. "Sure, sounds like a great idea," he said, already grabbing his coat. "Wait," Eva interjected, her voice trembling. "What about dinner here? I've been preparing all day." "Oh, Eva, don't be so dramatic," Regina said dismissively. "We'll be back later. You can handle things here." Without another word, Regina, Caleb, Felix, and Serafina left, their laughter echoing through the door as they departed for their extravagant outing. Eva sat frozen at the table, staring at the half-eaten meal she had poured her energy into preparing. The cheerful chatter of the evening had evaporated, leaving behind an eerie silence. One by one, the remaining guests made their excuses and left, their pitying glances only deepening Eva's pain. By the time the house emptied, Eva was alone with her thoughts. She scrolled through her phone, unable to resist checking social media. There they were, Regina, Caleb, Felix, and Serafina, smiling in photos at a luxurious restaurant, the caption reading, "Best Thanksgiving ever with the best family." Tears welled up in Eva's eyes as she stared at the glowing screen. The people she had once considered her family had left her out in the cold, making it painfully clear where their loyalties lay. For the first time, Eva began to question if this was a life she could endure any longer. Eva stared at the pregnancy test in her trembling hands, the two pink lines glaring back at her. A mix of emotions overwhelmed her: fear, hope, and a deep uncertainty. Her first pregnancy had been fraught with complications, leaving her health fragile and her confidence shaken. Now, with a toddler to care for and a husband who had grown increasingly distant, she couldn't help but wonder if she had the strength to endure it all over again. When she broke the news to Caleb, his reaction was as cold as it was dismissive. "Another one," he said, barely looking up from his phone. "Just don't quit your job this time. We can't afford that." Eva's heart sank. She had hoped this new life might bring them closer, rekindle the bond they had once shared, but Caleb's indifference only deepened the chasm between them. Instead of showing concern for her health or their growing family, Caleb spent more time at Regina's house or running errands for Felix, leaving Eva to navigate her pregnancy almost entirely alone. The real blow came just 5 days before her scheduled C-section. Caleb arrived home in a flurry, Regina following close behind. Eva, resting on the couch with her swollen belly, looked up in confusion as Caleb began hurriedly packing a suitcase. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice laced with unease. "We're heading to Hawaii for Felix's wedding," Caleb replied curtly. But my C-section is in 5 days, Eva said, panic rising in her chest. Who's going to take care of our son? How can you leave now? You'll manage, Caleb said dismissively, zipping up his bag. You always do. As they walked out the door, Eva's heart shattered. Desperate, she checked their joint savings account, only to find it empty. Caleb had drained everything. That night, sharp pains shot through her abdomen, and she realized her water had broken. Fear gripped her as she called for an ambulance, the realization dawning that she was about to face this life-threatening delivery alone. Hours later, Eva woke in the hospital, Mary and John by her side, their hands clasping hers tightly. The doctors had managed to save both her and the baby, but the ordeal had left her emotionally and physically drained. As she held her newborn in her arms, Eva made a silent vow. She would no longer rely on Caleb. For her children's sake, and her own, she would find the strength to break free from the life that had nearly destroyed her. The day Eva decided to file for divorce, she felt an overwhelming sense of both fear and relief. Fear for the uncertainty that lay ahead, but relief from the suffocating weight of a marriage that had long since ceased to be a partnership. The moment Caleb drained their savings and abandoned her before the birth of their second child, Eva knew she couldn't let him continue to dictate her life. Her priority now was her children and herself. The legal process was surprisingly smooth. Caleb's arrogance worked in Eva's favor. He dismissed the proceedings as a waste of time, confident that his association with Serafina and her promised financial ventures would soon make him untouchable. You're going to regret this, Eva, he sneered during one of their last conversations. I'm about to be rich, and you'll still be stuck here, struggling in this dump. What Caleb didn't realize was that Eva no longer cared about his approval or his empty promises. Armed with years of bank statements proving she had been the one paying the mortgage, the judge awarded her the house. Caleb, too distracted by his supposed future wealth, didn't bother contesting much else. By the time he packed his things and left, Eva felt like the house itself sighed in relief, its walls no longer echoing with his disdain. In the months that followed, Eva focused on creating a life of stability and love for her children. Returning to work wasn't easy, especially with her impaired vision and the challenges of balancing motherhood, but Eva's determination didn't waver. Her career slowly began to rebuild, and with every paycheck, she felt a sense of independence she hadn't experienced in years. Meanwhile, Caleb flaunted his new life on social media. Photos of him and Serafina at lavish parties and expensive vacations filled Eva's feed, each caption dripping with arrogance. But Eva didn't feel jealousy or regret, only a quiet sense of pity for a man who had chosen illusions over substance. Her focus remained on her sons. She celebrated their milestones with pride, from her toddler's first steps to her older son's bright curiosity about the world. The house, though modest, became a haven of warmth and love, far removed from the toxic environment it had once been. A year later, the news broke. Serafina's financial empire had been a sham, a carefully constructed web of lies designed to dupe investors, including Caleb, Felix, and Regina. She disappeared, taking millions with her and leaving Caleb's family in financial ruin. Regina lost her home, Felix was saddled with debt, and Caleb, stripped of his dreams of grandeur, was left scrambling. Eva felt no need for revenge or vindication. Instead, she looked around at her life, the small victories she had earned, and the peace she had created. Her children's laughter filled the house as they played, a sound that reminded her of just how far she'd come. Eva had lost much, but she had gained something far more valuable: freedom, strength, and the clarity to see what truly mattered. Her life wasn't perfect, but it was hers, and that was enough. The news broke on an ordinary Tuesday morning. Eva's phone buzzed with a notification, and her heart skipped a beat as she read the headline: Banker exposed in multi-million-dollar fraud, victims left in ruins. Her eyes scanned the article, disbelief turning into a strange sense of clarity. Serafina, the woman Caleb and his family had idolized, was no banker at all. She had orchestrated an elaborate financial scam, convincing Caleb, Felix and Regina to pour every penny they had, and even money they didn't, into a fake investment scheme. The fallout was swift and brutal. Regina's house was repossessed, her cars seized by creditors. Caleb and Felix, who had mortgaged everything to fund Felix's lavish wedding and Serafina's so-called ventures, were now drowning in debt. Serafina had vanished, taking millions with her and leaving nothing behind but forged documents and shattered lives. Eva read the details with a mix of shock and vindication. Caleb had abandoned her and their children for this illusion of wealth and success, only to be left with nothing. Yet, she felt no satisfaction, just a deep sense of relief that she and her sons were no longer tied to the chaos Caleb had chosen. A few days later, Eva's phone rang, the caller ID displaying Regina's name. Against her better judgment, she answered. "Eva." Regina's voice came through, trembling and uncharacteristically soft. We need your help." Eva's breath caught. "Help?" she echoed, her voice steady. "Caleb and we have nowhere to go. The children need their father. We're family, Eva. You can't just turn your back on us in a time like this," Regina pleaded, her tone laced with desperation. Eva took a deep breath, memories of Regina's insults, Caleb's betrayal, and the years of loneliness flooding back. "Family," she said calmly. "You weren't concerned about family when you abandoned me while I was pregnant. Or when you drained my savings. Or when you humiliated me at every turn." "Eva, please," Regina tried again, but Eva cut her off. "I've rebuilt my life for my children, and I won't expose them to the instability you've brought upon yourselves. I'm sorry for what you're going through, but this is the result of your own choices. Please don't contact me again." With that, Eva ended the call and blocked Regina's number. For the first time in years, she felt truly free from their toxicity, their cruelty, and their chaos. She turned back to her children, their laughter filling the room, and knew she had made the right choice. When Regina pleaded for help, Eva stood firm. "You abandoned me when I needed you most, insulted me, and drained my savings. You weren't concerned about family then. My priority is my children, and I refuse to let your chaos back into our lives." With those final words, Eva ended the call and blocked Regina's number. A profound sense of peace washed over her as she turned her focus back to her children. Their laughter filled the home, a reminder that she had built a life of love and stability. For Eva, the past was finally behind her, and the future was hers to embrace.